I was brought to Canada when I was 5 years old. But before that, I lived in Pennsylvania, in a small town in the western part of the state, in a big white house with a spindly tree and a weathered picnic table in the backyard. Next door was a parking lot adjacent to a low building of sand-colored brick. For some reason, I disliked this building, which aroused apprehension in me. Apparently, it was some kind of medical facility. As the years went by, I forgot many things about my early life, but I never forgot the White House. In fact, I used to dream about it. Or perhaps nightmare is the more appropriate term. In some of the dreams, it's nighttime, or at least after dark, and I'm taken by my parents and others to the medical facility next door. Inside the clinic, I'm taken to an examining room, which is actually more like an operating room. It's also dark, crowded with shadowy figures, and I'm frightened by the ear-piercing electronic sounds and the flashing lights. In fact, in these dreams, I'm screaming. Maybe I scream in my sleep too. Anyway, I wake up in a cold sweat. The kids are in the other dreams. Children with dark hair, pale skin, and funny eyes, although I couldn't have explained why they were funny. Grade school kids with a goth look. They never spoke, but I could hear them in my mind. Come play with us. Come play with us. Come and play. And they were always there, usually in the backyard, around the picnic table under the spindly tree, or in the living room, or the big dining room. And at night, in my bedroom, standing in the dark, at the end of my bed. Sometimes Dad was in these dreams, and he always seemed upset if the kids were around, but he never did anything to them or even acknowledged they were present. Sometimes I wondered who these children were or what happened, if anything, in the clinic. In truth, I thought a lot about the White House. But I lived in Canada, so I figured I would never see it again. At least, that's what I figured. I was having beers with a friend when he asked out of the blue, "You used to live in Pennsylvania, eh?" Once I got over my surprise, I answered, "Yeah, in a small town, in a big white house. Why do you ask?" "Well, I have to go to Pittsburgh for a conference, and I was wondering if you'd like to tag along. Maybe catch a Bucks game." The road to the Iron City took us past the small town where I'd spent my earliest years, and it didn't take a lot of persuading to talk my buddy, Andy, into stopping, which is why we were pulled up in front of the White House. I experienced a strange sense of unreality. The house appeared totally unchanged from my early childhood, 20 years before. I wondered if the spindly tree was still there and the weathered picnic table, and if my old man was there too, in his suede fall jacket, looking worried. The low building of sand-colored brick, the medical facility, was still next door. And when I looked at it, I was seized by sheer panic, by a sudden need to get away, far away, and never come back. "Well, I've seen it," I said, fighting for calm. "Let's go." "What? After coming all this way? Don't you want to have a look around?" "No, I'm good." And that's when the front door opened, and a man stepped out onto the porch. He was tall and slim, with a pale face topped by a shock of raven black hair and dark eyes, which seemed odd, although I couldn't have explained why I thought so. He stepped down from the porch, and as he walked towards us, He said in a clear and resonant voice, "Hello, Josh. We've been expecting you." How did you know my name?" I blurted. And then I knew. This was one of the kids from my dreams, now all grown up. "Won't you come in?" he asked urbanely. "My sister is waiting for us." "Wait!" I turned to Andy, only to find him in the car and backing down the driveway. I started waving and began to run after the vehicle, but stopped when the dark-haired man said, "Come, Josh. It's better this way." "What's going on?" I demanded, but the strange man had already turned back to the door and said over his shoulder, "My sister is waiting." And I felt compelled to follow him. What choice did I have? But I stopped dead as soon as I entered the front hall, and the memories flooded back. It was late, well after bedtime, and I was in my room and under the covers, but the house was filled with light, as if I was having, or being forced to have, a nap in the daytime. I wasn't alone. There were little men in my room, little gray men with spindly arms and enormous black eyes, and they made me get up, even though I didn't wanna. And I want my mom. I want my mom. I want my mommy. We walked downstairs and into the backyard with the tree and the picnic table, and it's lit up like day, even though it's night. The old man is there in his suede jacket, looking very worried, but he doesn't say anything to me. We seem to be heading for the clinic next door, and I don't want to go. I don't want to. We go into the building, which is filled by a weird pulsing sound, which makes me feel disoriented. Then into a big, dark room, like an examining room, with bright oscillating lights, creating a strobe effect. The room was filled by a shadowy crowd, some the little people, others normal people, including the old man. I was placed on an operating table. Directly above me, and attached to the ceiling, loomed a huge metallic needle, and as I screamed, it was lowered towards me and pierced the skin of my abdomen. And then I passed out, or at least I blacked out. What happened next? What happened next? The girl, or should I say young woman, was sitting at a table in the dining room. It looked exactly like the dining room table from my childhood. But that couldn't be possible, could it? "What's happening?" I shouted. The young woman said quietly, "You've come home." "Home?" "Yes, Josh," the dark-haired man chimed in. "There's no place like home." "I don't live here. I live in Canada." "You never left," the young woman said. I sank down into a nearby easy chair, which looked exactly like the same damned easy chair the old man used to sit in, smoking Camels and reading Playboy. I put my head in my hands and mumbled, "What's happening to me? What is happening to me?" "Do you recall visiting the clinic?" the man asked. "That place next door? I have nightmares about it." "Ah, so you recall the procedures. You mean it really happened? It's not a nightmare?" "Oh no, it was an experiment in genetic splicing." "Genetic splicing?" "Indeed. You see, we're your brother and sister." I jumped to my feet. What? I sputtered. "I've never seen you before." "But we've always been with you," the young woman said, smiling. And then she looked directly at me, and he looked directly at me, and their eyes were two pools of onyx, Stygian black. I turned to flee that accursed house. But in the front hall there was a mirror, and glancing into it, I saw that my eyes were two pools of onyx, Stygian black. Black eyes, identical to my brother and my sister. A family resemblance like. Who says you can't go home again? Home, sweet home. If this is your first visit to my channel, my name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring cryptids such as the night floaters, werewolves, and black-eyed children. I hope you will consider subscribing. Till midnight. Cheers.